Hi, this video is about the top 3 myths about making money online. Just like this mermaid, there's a lot of things out there that are presented to people in order to make money for someone else and for you to make money. And there's a lot of people who genuinely believe in some of these myths. And there's so many to choose from. Really, there's just a lot of misinformation out there. You know, this stuff didn't exist like 20 years ago, and so there's a lot of misunderstanding. It's something that can change. Specific aspects of it can change pretty significantly. New tools can come out, new strategies, new ideas, new platforms. I mean, like, how long is YouTube was created in, like, what, 2006? So it's not even, it's not even 15 years old right now. And so there's still just like a lot of misunderstanding around that. So also, I want to give you, because there's such a wide breadth of myths out there, I want to talk about a little bit about how to protect yourself against these myths. And really, it comes down to sort of like building understanding. That's really, really like building understanding should be kind of the center of really any sort of journey, like building a business, like creating an extra income for yourself. But when the more you can build understanding around what's real and what's not real, and really look at everything, including this video, with skepticism, and really try to line things up. That doesn't mean you can't be hopeful. That doesn't mean you can't take chances. I've taken lots of chances, but I tried to do it with prudence, with a focus on trying to understand what's real and what's not real, and what could be real. Because sometimes it's not about what's real now. It's about what's real, a year from now, or 2 years from now. You have to make those judgments. This video hopefully is part of the protection. I also want to talk about sort of like there's a lot of BS artists out there there's sort of a bunch of different variations of this. There's a lot of people out there fronting like they have made a lot of money and they're super wealthy when they're not. There are some people who have made some money but are fronting like they're super wealthy. It's not quite as bad. And what I try to focus on for myself is, in terms of what I talk about, is what I know and what I have experiences with. Not so much about like, I'm awesome in all these different ways. Just like, this is what I've done. This is what I've experienced with. This is what I can speak to with real experience, with having known and lived through it in successfully and unsuccessful ways. And now, also with all these BS artist properties, there are people who are real, who really can add value, and who really are not talking out of their ass, that have some of these properties. So that's what makes this difficult. There are some people who do this, who actually, they're doing it because it works, and they can actually back it up. But a lot of the people that I know that are truly badasses in this industry and making money online in the various different sub industries or whatever, they are not flashy, and they don't show you their Lambos. I drive a Tesla. I don't know if at this point, I don't think I've used it anywhere other than me just saying that right now. But I mean, it's not like there's pictures of me, going really fast or whatever everywhere. And also, just like typically in my experience, the kind of people that buy those things, buy like Lambos and stuff, it's okay if you like want it. It's okay if you have like $100 million in the bank. But most of the people that do that, I feel like the priorities are a little bit wrong. Or if you have like this super big mansion, you don't really need it. But a lot of how they get around that is they'll rent a Lambo for a day or two, or they'll rent like a dope ass house on VRBO or Airbnb for like a couple days or a day, and take a bunch of pictures, right? So it might not be real, but it's kind of beside the point. There's plenty of people out there who can add value who are not mega millionaires. I would not consider myself a mega millionaire. I've made good money. I provide a good living for my family, and I have freedom from a boss and have for a long time. And I make more than I really ever could. I guess it's theoretically possible I could have made it as a corporate job, but I make more, and my there's no cap on my income. So they're super hypey typically. Again, there's a lot of people out there that are super hypey that can back it up. But there's also a lot of people out there that just like it's kind of like it's an online version of used car salesman, where there's just like going, and they're kind of attacking you from a bunch of different angles. Again, it's like, this is a quality of this is high energy, and I try to be high energy myself. Maybe I'm not perfect about that, but there's other people out there who are genuinely high energy, and that's fine. You just kind of got to look at it like, is what they're saying, like, is it kind of just air? Is it kind of empty? And if it is, and it has a lot of these other qualities, then I would kind of throw off your BS meter. Again, that just means you kind of look deeper, or you compare it to someone else who seems more real. That is typically what I find. There's a lot of people out there who are real, who are genuinely trying to help other people, and who actually are talking about things that they know and understand and have experiences with. I'd like to put myself in that category and, try to be real about what I've done right and what I've done wrong. I'm not perfect, right? That's actually the last one here. A lot of times they try to project this image of perfection, like, oh, I know everything. I'm never wrong. I know everything about this, even about just like everything, or even everything about the specific topic. And I can't be wrong, or you can't disagree with me, stuff like that. Another thing I've seen is big wads of cash. That's a really big red flag. I've never seen someone who's really a badass throw around big, well, maybe just to kind of like grab your attention, but he didn't pretend like it was like a real cash that he was carrying around. One guy that was kind of scammy, I did find him to be doing that. Really high pressure sales. So there is a part of sales that, in order to help people, you have to convert them into buying something, right? Because you can't just give it away for free. It just doesn't make sense. You can't support your family and give that stuff away for free. So there's balance there, and so you do have to press some buttons in order to get sales. And I do this as well, like use scarcity. But there's sort of like when it's over the top, just like most of the other things, and there's just tons of it, and it just kind of doesn't add up. That's where I would try to avoid that. So, okay, let's jump into the myths. Myth number 1. So, a 4-hour work week. Okay, so this is Tim Ferriss. He wrote a 4-hour work week book. I believe it was like 2008-ish or something like that. And I read it, and it's a couple times, and it's a good book. There's a lot of good ideas in there. But I think that it created this false impression that you can have a 4-hour work week basically right out of the gate or really quickly in starting your business and still make good money. While this is theoretically possible, it shouldn't be what you expect. And also, I would say that you definitely should not expect to do this to start. You're trying to build a business. You're trying to build something that's going to provide income, not just for like the next month, but for years to come. It's not going to come overnight, and there's a lot to do, because otherwise, if it was so easy, everyone else would do it. If you could just do it in 4 hours a week. Now, eventually, you can get to 4 hours a week, but there's another consideration here, which is that as an entrepreneur, there's always more work to be done. There's always more that you can do to build your business. There's always more profits to get, right? Now, that doesn't mean there can't be stretches like where I feel like in my business, there are times in which I can take significant periods off if I really wanted to. Like I could take 2 or 3 weeks off in a row, and maybe even a month or maybe 2 if I really wanted to and set things up right. I could totally do that. So that's really possible, but it's not really what I wouldn't want to do that forever. And I just think that the 4-hour work week isn't really, well, it's a reasonable goal to shoot for down the road. It's not something that you should expect. If you're working a day job and you're like dreaming of this 4-hour work week and you're thinking that as soon as you quit your job, you're going to be able to do that, that is a big myth. Okay. Again, I actually like Tim Ferriss, so I'm not saying that he's wrong. I think he doesn't dive into the fact that in the story that he gives of himself going to the 4-hour work week, he'd spent years building this really successful business, and that he was able to move it down to a 4-hour work week, partially because of the type of the business that he had, but also because he had a successful business and that he'd busted his ass for years to build. Right. So if you spend 2-3 years busting your ass and you build a really successful business, then yes, moving to a 4-hour work week is very, very doable, but don't expect to start there. Myth number 2, there's a best way. Okay. Or there's always a best way. This is really going to hurt you a lot. And this is something that's a little bit more pernicious. I think it's a little bit easier for people to understand. Of course, you have to work for the money, but there's this idea that there's going to be something that's the best period, or for everybody, or for you specifically. I recommend that you throw that idea out the window and don't try to think about what's the best. Okay. What this does when you have this best mentality is you have major fear of missing out. So it makes it a lot easier for someone who, like these BS artists up here, to sell you things that aren't really going to help you, or they're going to divert you from whatever path that you've started to build. And so you're gonna have major fear of missing out. You're gonna buy a bunch of stuff you don't need. You're not gonna stick to something. It's similar to like shiny object syndrome. And the better way for this is to find something that is good and stick to it. Good enough. So let's see. Good. Whoops. Enough. Okay, I'm having trouble with my caps lock. Plus, stick to it for 6 to 24 months. All right, this is a much better path to success. So it's not about you make sure you pick the perfect business plan or the perfect idea. It's more about just picking something that's good and really sticking to it and really figuring it out and not diverting from it. Because what most people do is it's sort of like they go to build a house. Your business is a house. They go to build a house. They get a third of the way through it. They see another plan in another place for another house, and they stop building this current one and they go build another one. And then after a year or two, they have 5 or 6 to a third built houses. Okay, well, that doesn't do you any good. You don't have any place to live. Same thing for a business. It would have been better just to like finish that first house, really get it as really understand it, really build it right, and then go from there. And that is like for me, I didn't choose client SEO. Probably wasn't the best thing that I could have picked, but I picked it and I stuck to it, right? And I focused on it and I worked on it until I got it right. And that's part of why I've been successful. I've stuck with it for so long. That the longer you stick with it, this doesn't mean that I didn't try different things and that I don't have a lot of flexibility in what I do. It just means that like I didn't constantly switch from one business model to the other. And that's really what a lot of people will end up happening if you're trying to search for the best way. You just pick something and go after it and stick to it for a significant period of time. Now, maybe it turns out it's not good enough and you realize that like 8 months in. Okay, that's possible, and you need to accept that as a potential reality before you get started. But if it isn't you're gonna run into walls no matter what business you pick, right? A month, 2, 3 months in. And if you hit that wall and you think, well, maybe this isn't the best path, and you search for something else, it's just going to rinse and repeat. So you need to work on the muscle of pushing through those walls because, especially if you see other people out there who've been successful with it, there is a path there, and it's not easy. And none of the good paths out there really are just going to be smooth sailing right from get-go. There's going to be hurdles that you're going to have to overcome. All right, so myth number 1, this is a big one, and even some of the people that I respect the most try to sell this as something, and I don't really, there's not a lot of people that I know that kind of move against this myth. To me, it's really not good, and it kind of supports both myths both myths 2 and 3, and it's like the 30 days to success. All right, so a lot of times you'll see people and they'll be selling their product or whatever, and they'll give an example of somebody who joined, and then like 27 days later they made $10,000. That is almost every time I've looked deeper into that, it's a bit misleading. And there's a lot of people that don't do that, and they present it more realistically, like it, a year or two in, they're making $10,000 or $20,000 or $30,000 a month. Okay, that's much more realistic. But the problem is that they on their products, they have like a 14 to 30 day money back guarantee, versus on, for the last year or so on my products, I've given 1 year money back guarantees, because you're not going to really know if something is right for you or if something really did help you in 14 days or even 30 days, right? And that's my philosophy on that. You actually have to give it a try. You actually have to, hit the hurdles and try to overcome those hurdles and see if those people are there to help you. Also there's kind of this philosophy of trying to make money that a lot of people have that is really not good for, it's just not helpful. Kind of like OneTime Cash. Like there's a lot of things online of like, oh, here you make $50 or make $250 today. But it's not a business model. It's just something you can do once. It's not really helpful. It's not something you're going to be able to build towards. It's not something you're going to be able to support your family with for a long time. Versus like a real business that provides ongoing income month after month, year after year, for years. So as I've been making a full-time income supporting my family since 2013, and pretty good income. Not every month, not every year has been up, but when I ran the numbers, so out of 8 years, 7 were up and 1 was down, which I think is pretty good. That's realistic. Maybe some people have a 100% success rate. I won't pretend to be perfect. I'm not perfect. So also I want to point out, like in all the cases where I see the 30-day success story presented, the people that did that joined, they had previous experiences that helped them. They weren't starting from scratch. They weren't complete newbies. Okay, so keep that in mind. A lot of times they're like, yeah, they joined the program 27 days ago, but they've been in the business for 2 years, right? That happens a lot. So they've been studying, and this just was the final. Maybe this was actually the final piece of the puzzle. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe that has nothing to do with it at all. So keep that in mind when you're looking at this. Anyway, hopefully this video was helpful. If you liked it, please like and subscribe for more videos like it. I hope you have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye now.